It was the day the college application portal was set to close when I accidentally overheard Isabella talking with her friends. She mentioned that she had changed her choices at the last second to attend the same university as Leo Sterling. It made sense since he was the most popular guy on campus. Her friends immediately started teasing her, and one of them couldn't resist poking fun at the situation. She asked what Isabella was going to do about me, her childhood best friend. We had promised to stay here in Houston together, a plan we had talked about for 6 years straight. Isabella froze for a second, as if she had only just remembered I existed. Then she shrugged it off with total indifference and said there was no need to worry about me. She explained that I had her login for the application portal and would surely follow her once I saw the change. She claimed I had been obsessed with following her around since we were kids. I stood silently outside the door, listening to the long silence that followed her statement. I eventually turned and walked away quietly, pretending I had never heard a word of that conversation. When I got home, I didn't even bother opening the application website, let alone altering the course of my life to follow her. She would likely never understand that while she was free to chase her first love, I had my own horizon to reach. I had poured countless sleepless nights into my dream, and the future I worked so hard for was never just about her. Isabella's words felt like a heavy blow to the chest, leaving me breathless. Going to the same university was a promise we made for our shared future. We had been set on this goal since we started middle school. Right before the deadline, our parents even got together to help us plan everything out. We were supposed to confirm our submissions together. Now, without even a courtesy text, she had thrown all those plans away. Back in a restaurant, one of her friends couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. She wondered how Isabella was so sure I would check her application again. She asked what would happen if I simply never noticed the secret change. Isabella let out a dismissive laugh. She said with absolute certainty that I would find out because nobody knew my habits better than she did. She claimed that for something as important as college apps, I would be logging in to check the system a dozen times a day. She said I was such a worrier, terrified I would make a single typo and end up in a different major than her. She sighed deeply, sounding both annoyed and burdened. She told her friends they wouldn't understand what it was like to have someone stuck to them like glue since childhood. The room erupted in laughter at her comment. Still, her friends seemed skeptical about the whole thing. She asked if Isabella was truly certain I would change my entire future at the last second just to be with her. Isabella finally looked up from her phone, a smug smile playing on her lips. She drawled that I had never been away from her for more than a week since the day we were born. She asked where else I could possibly go, if not to the same college as her. Another friend finally spoke up, unable to stay silent. She told Isabella that what she was doing was pretty messed up. She suggested that Isabella should have at least given me a heads up about changing her mind. Isabella's finger froze over her screen as a look of impatience crossed her face. She admitted she simply forgot to tell me. She complained that it was exhausting having to report her every move to me. She said that if I knew she was changing schools because of Leo, I would probably make a huge scene. She insisted it wasn't a snap decision. Leo had told her he was nervous about going to school in Miami alone and said he would feel much safer with someone he knew. The room went quiet for a moment before everyone started nodding in agreement. One of them said it made sense since Leo was so handsome. They agreed that given his family situation, it was only natural for her to want to look after him. They compared him to me, calling me a nerd who did nothing but study. They said I couldn't compete with the school's hottest guy. Another friend laughed, saying, only someone as devoted as Isabella would give up her dream of aerospace engineering to be a nanny for a pretty boy. Their laughter drifted through the door, mixing with the sound effects from their mobile games. I stood alone in the hallway, feeling as though my blood had turned to ice. It felt like I'd been plunged into a frozen void. I clenched my fists, a wild urge screaming in my head to kick the door open and demand answers right then and there. I wanted to know the truth immediately. However, my legs felt like lead, refusing to move an inch. I stood there like a statue for what felt like an eternity. In the end, I lacked the courage to face her. I quietly turned around and fled the scene in a state of total shock. I walked out of the restaurant in a daze and didn't stop until I had locked myself in my bedroom. The tears I'd been holding back finally came crashing down. Isabella's words played on a loop in my mind over and over again. I couldn't understand how she could discard her lifelong dream so easily. We had spent years working toward the same aerospace program. I had pushed myself to the limit just to meet the requirements for that elite major, a goal we were supposed to achieve together. Only minutes before entering that restaurant, I had been filled with a simple foolish joy. I thought we were finally stepping into the future we had promised each other. I never imagined she would throw away the tomorrow I worked so hard for, a future we were meant to build together. All for another man without a second thought. Even if she had a change of heart, why couldn't she have been honest with me? Did she really think I was that desperate to cling to her? If she was so guarded against me, what did that kiss under the stars even mean? On the night of her 18th birthday, our hearts were racing and I thought we finally understood each other. Was I just a fool who mistook a drunken moment for real love? The string holding my heart together finally snapped. The truth was, I didn't need to follow her like a shadow. We had been in the same classes since kindergarten all the way through high school graduation. Everyone, including Isabella, assumed I would never leave her side. Everyone thought we would be together forever. But nobody knew that I had my own reasons for wanting to go to that university. Reasons that had nothing to do with her. Even if she didn't go, I would still be there. I opened my laptop, but slammed it shut a second later. I didn't even want to look at the application portal anymore. I had no intention of changing my life for her. She could chase her campus idol, but I had my own sky to fly in. Since our paths were destined to diverge, there was no point in dwelling on the past. A strange sense of peace washed over me. My mother was right. Everyone has to grow up eventually. As for that kiss, I decided to treat it like a random accident. I went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face to clear my head. Just then, a FaceTime request from Isabella popped up on my phone. My brain hesitated, but my fingers answered out of habit. "Davis, what's taking you so long?" she complained. "Everyone is waiting to eat. Why are you getting so lazy now that finals are over graduation?" Isabella's group of friends had planned a series of dinners to celebrate. Today was her turn to host, but I had absolutely no desire to join them. "I'm not coming," I said flatly. "Go ahead without me." Before I could finish, a smooth male voice came from Isabella's side. "Isabella, is Davis upset because I'm here?" Leo Sterling asked. Her friends immediately jumped in before she could even open her mouth. "Of course not," they chirped. "We're thrilled to have the school star athlete here. Davis is just being possessive again. He gets weird whenever any guy gets close to Isabella." Leo's face flashed on the screen. They were sitting so close they were practically touching. He used a gentle tone and whispered to Isabella that maybe he should leave so he wouldn't make things difficult for her. Isabella's expression shifted immediately as she grabbed his arm. She told Leo not to go and said I was just having a moment. She told everyone to ignore me and just start eating. She hung up without giving me a single chance to respond. A surge of anger hit me and I blocked her number immediately. In all the years I had known her, I had never been this angry. It was always because of Leo Sterling. Ever since he transferred to our school in 10th grade, Isabella had been making exceptions for him. Maybe girls just can't resist that clean, handsome look. While I was buried in books and looking like a mess, Leo was always perfectly groomed. He always wore those crisp white shirts and looked like he had everything together. We fought constantly because of him. I often wondered if she actually had feelings for him. I even tried to distance myself from her once to move on. But every time I pulled away, she would come find me and promise that nothing was going on. She told me Leo was just a classmate and that I was being paranoid. She claimed she only helped him out of pity because of his difficult family situation. People called him handsome to his face, but they gossiped about his family's drama behind his back. I believed her back then because Leo's background really was tragic. I tried to be understanding as they grew closer. Isabella had never lied to me before, so I trusted her completely. But over time, I realized they were meeting behind my back more often. Now, she had upended her entire future for him. It made me look like a complete idiot. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was a text from Isabella using her friend's phone. She was furious that I blocked her and threatened to deal with me later. I didn't even hesitate before blocking her friend's number too. I checked the clock and headed to school. It was the final day for college applications and our advisor wanted us to meet one last time for some final instructions. Traffic was heavy, so Isabella and Leo were already there when I arrived. Leo was sitting in my usual spot next to Isabella, looking like he belonged there. He didn't even pretend to offer me the seat, his eyes full of smug provocation. Isabella ignored me completely, her face cold as she looked away. She looked like she was waiting for me to apologize and beg for her forgiveness like I always did. Not this time. I didn't even want to sit near her. I found a spot across the room next to my best friend, Sam Thompson, as far away from them as possible. Today is the final window for the application portal, our advisor reminded us. Please double-check everything. If you have any doubts, come talk to the teachers. After the announcements, we were free to move around. I was listening to Sam share some gossip when someone tapped the back of my head. "Davis, come outside," Isabella said. I glanced at her for a second before turning back to Sam. Isabella wasn't going to let it go. She grabbed my shoulder and forced me to face her. "Davis, what is your problem today?" she snapped. "I'm sick of these mood swings. We're going to college. Stop acting like a child." I looked her in the eye and snapped back. "It is childish, isn't it? So, don't bother trying to make up with me anymore." We stared at each other until she finally backed down. "Fine," she hissed. "I'm done dealing with your pettiness. Keep that sour face. You'll be the one crying and begging me later." I didn't even give her a second glance. I thought she was gone, but she grabbed my face again. She told me it was the deadline and that I needed to check my application one last time so I wouldn't mess it up. She was about to say more when Leo walked over with his laptop. He asked her for help in a soft voice. She nodded and pinched my cheek like she always did before turning to him. She reminded me to go to the computer lab since I didn't have my laptop. I scoffed internally. She was so sure I'd log in, see her change, and follow her to Miami like an idiot. She was acting like nothing happened to avoid an argument. It didn't matter anymore. I had already made up my mind that I wasn't going to make the same mistake again. I watched her help Leo, then Sam dragged me out of the classroom. Sam saw how down I was and dragged me to a friend's birthday party. I didn't have the energy to argue, so I went along. After the party, everyone decided to head to a new bar nearby. As soon as we walked in, I ran into Isabella and her crew. They were having their own party there. Since we all knew each other, the groups merged into one large booth. Isabella looked uncomfortable when she saw me but didn't speak. I was fine with that and ignored her completely. On my way to the restroom, I overheard Isabella talking to a friend in a corner. Her friend was urging her to just be honest with me. She mentioned that Miami was a long way from me to move. Isabella just laughed it off. She said she had dropped enough hints for me to check my application. She assumed I was just pouting because she hadn't consulted me first. They turned around and saw me standing there before I could move. Isabella signaled her friend to leave, then blocked my path in the hallway. "Davis, we need to talk," she said firmly. I rolled my eyes and tried to walk past her, but she grabbed my arm. I could smell the alcohol on her breath and turned my head away. We stood there for a moment before she suddenly laughed. She asked if I was still mad and mentioned she had tried to text me earlier. She said she had been so busy she forgot I had blocked her. She sighed and told me to stop being so difficult. She asked if I had checked my application yet. I stood there like a statue, refusing to give her any kind of response. She was about to say more when Leo's voice cut in. He told her some friends wanted to grab a drink. He looked at me and apologized for interrupting, though it felt staged. I swear Leo had a tracker on her. Every time we tried to talk alone, he appeared like clockwork. I didn't want to talk to either of them. I ducked under Isabella's arm to leave, but Leo caught my shoulder as I tried past him. "Davis, I'm sorry for ruining the mood." Leo said, "You've been down all day, and it's making Isabella sad." I was so annoyed by his fake attitude that I didn't even want to look at him. His grip was surprisingly tight, and it actually hurt. I had to shove his hand off me. Leo stumbled back, his eyes turning red as if he were the victim. "Isabella, is Davis still mad that I came?" Leo asked. He offered to apologize to me so we wouldn't fight. He even started to bow, acting like he was being humble. Isabella lost it. She shoved Leo behind her like a protective mother. She screamed that I was just a spoiled brat and that Leo didn't need to apologize to me. She turned to me, screaming about why I pushed him. She said I was the one who should apologize. She reminded me that we were all going to the same school and should be looking out for each other. I'd had enough. I told her that if she loved being his nanny so much, they could just take care of each other. I walked away, ignoring her shouting after me. She yelled at me not to go too far. Later, they both came back to the booth. Isabella looked tense while Leo just looked a little awkward. Everyone except Sam started teasing them about being gone so long. They were making suggestive jokes as if the two of them had been doing something secret. Even Isabella's old friends joined in, completely ignoring how awkward it was for me. I realized they just saw me as Isabella's shadow. We started playing Truth or Dare, and Leo got a dare to sing a love song to someone in the room. He immediately looked at Isabella for help. She glanced at me defiantly and then agreed. In the past, I would have been furious and tried to stop it. Now, I just sat there and didn't even look up. Leo was a great singer and always performed at school events. I had to admit he had a good voice. I finished a beer and watched him serenade her. Isabella had a small smile on her face. At first, she kept looking at me, expecting me to cause a scene, but as he kept singing, she seemed to forget everyone else was there. She sat up and stared at him with such intensity that you could practically feel the sparks between them. When the song ended, Leo tripped and fell right into Isabella's arms. He was dressed lightly and they ended up in a very suggestive position on the seat. The whole room went wild with whistles and cheers. The screaming was deafening. Leo turned bright red, looking like he wanted to disappear. Isabella pretended to be annoyed and told everyone they were going too far. She pulled Leo behind her again, protecting him from everyone's teasing looks. That kind of natural intimacy used to be ours alone. Even though I told myself I was over it, seeing it happen in front of me still stung. I couldn't take it anymore. I finished my drink and walked out without saying a word. Sam was also furious and followed me out. We stood on the curb and just let out our frustrations. Sam said he wanted to say something, but I told him it wasn't worth it. There was no point in ruining the party. Soon we would be strangers anyway. I didn't care what happened after I left. I was just exhausted. I got home at 11:55 p.m. feeling completely drained. There were only 5 minutes left before the application portal closed forever. I collapsed onto my bed and closed my eyes. I felt a wave of loss wash over me. We had grown up together, and it wasn't easy to just let go of all those years. While I was lying there, my phone started vibrating. It was an unknown number. I answered and Isabella's voice came through. She sounded a little drunk and unusually sweet. She asked me to stop being mad and reminded me to change my application. She talked about how beautiful Miami was and promised we could go surfing together. She was being so nice, which was rare for her. Usually, she would be stubborn even when she was wrong. She used to threaten me with not taking me to Disney World if I didn't behave. I would always give in because I couldn't stand to see her upset. I loved her too much to stay mad. But this time was different. Her acting like everything was fine only made it hurt more. She kept asking me to say something and to agree to her plan. She mentioned how I always wanted to live by the ocean and said the new campus was perfect. She talked about how far Miami was and how cold the winters would be. Knowing I hated the cold, she promised to take me to see the snow during winter break. She kept talking as if she were trying to convince both of us that her moving to Miami was actually for my benefit. I let her ramble for a while before I finally interrupted. I asked her if there was anything else she wanted to tell me. My voice cracked as I spoke. I was still hoping she would just be honest with me. If she could just tell the truth, maybe we could still be friends. But if she was going to keep lying, then we were done. She hesitated for a second. She asked why I was asking when I already knew the answer. She complained that I'd been moody all day and asked why I was being so difficult. She said the schools were all good and that as long as we were together, the city didn't matter. She kept talking about random things, refusing to give me a straight answer. I was done listening to her excuses. That was her last chance, and she blew it. I hung up and turned off my phone. I looked at the clock as it struck midnight. The portal was closed and there was no going back. It was for the best. We had both made our choices. Now we could just go our separate ways. I turned off the light and tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. I remembered her laughing, crying, being silly, and being angry. Every memory of her was so clear. We had grown up together, and she was in almost every memory I had. I never thought it would end like this. It is easy to feel vulnerable late at night. Even though I told myself to be strong all day, I couldn't stop the tears from soaking my pillow. I eventually fell into a restless sleep. I woke up at noon the next day. My phone was covered in missed calls and texts from unknown numbers. I knew it was Isabella trying to reach me from different phones. I ignored them all. My phone kept vibrating because of a group chat Sam had added me to. I opened my message and saw a screenshot from around 1 a.m. The guys were all gossiping about something. They were talking about Leo Sterling's latest post. They were joking about how much he had been posting on Facebook since graduation. They mentioned his expensive watch and how he was finally showing his true colors now that school was over. The screenshot was from Leo's Facebook. I zoomed in on the photo. It was a girl sleeping in a hotel bed. It was Isabella. Even with only part of her face visible, I knew it was her immediately. My heart felt like it had been stabbed. Leo's caption was incredibly suggestive. He wrote about taking 99 steps toward her and how she finally came to him at the last step. He called it true happiness. The post was blowing up with likes and comments. Leo's replies were just as suggestive. Isabella's friends were all in the comments cheering them on and offering congratulations. My heart sank. I realized how far things had gone between them. Isabella had been so sweet to me on the phone last night, acting like she cared, only to go to a hotel with another man right after. I wondered how she wasn't exhausted from lying to everyone. I was devastated, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. Thank God I didn't change my application for her. I would have been a total laughingstock for the next 4 years. I locked my phone and tried to stop thinking about them. I was just sitting there when the doorbell rang. I opened it and was shocked to see Isabella standing there. She had dark circles under her eyes and was holding a box of my favorite pastries. I didn't move to let her in, but she just pushed past me like she lived there and walked into the living room. She put the box on the table and tried to ruffle my hair. I pulled away. She complained about me having a temper and ignoring all her texts and calls. She asked if I was planning to stay home and cry while everyone else went on the trip. She cut a piece of cake and offered it to me, saying she had spent 30 minutes in a taxi just to get it for me. She told me to eat and then we could plan our vacation. I just stared at her. She looked awkward and tried to feed me with a fork, but I stepped back to avoid her. She gave up on the cake and mentioned how I always wanted to go to Savannah. She said since summer break was long, we should just go. She told me she had already invited Leo and the others and suggested renting 2 cars for the group. I just shook my head and told her go without me. I asked her to leave because I was heading out. She looked confused and asked if I was really going to skip the trip we had talked about for years just because I was mad at her. She tried to hug me, but I dodged. She managed to grab my phone instead. She told me to stop being difficult and complained about being tired from drinking last night and coming over to cheer me up. I told her that nobody asked her to come and that I didn't need her to make me happy. She frowned and demanded a reason for why I didn't want to go. I just looked at her like she was a stranger. I told her that if she really wanted me there, she wouldn't have planned everything without me and then just informed me of the schedule. I said she should just go with Leo and that I didn't want to be a third wheel to their romance. Isabella sighed loudly, a sign she was losing her temper. She admitted Leo was going because he wanted to see Savannah. She pointed out that other people were going too and asked why I was so obsessed with hating him. She said he deserved a trip since his family was poor and he had never been anywhere. She argued that Savannah was big enough for everyone. She looked exhausted as she defended him. I was done with the conversation and told her to go with whoever she wanted. Isabella got angry and gave me an ultimatum. She said she had already bought my ticket and told me to be at the airport tomorrow morning or not. She slammed my phone on the table and stormed out. I didn't try to stop her. I just watched her leave and then shut the door. Her face was full of rage as she threw one last insult at me before the door closed. She yelled that I would never get along with roommates with my attitude. I went back to the living room and threw the cake she brought into the trash. I didn't want anything from her. I didn't want her cake or to be a third wheel on her trip. Her trying to balance me and her new guy was pathetic. I sat on the couch for a while and then decided to take my own vacation to get away from it all. They say it takes 21 days to break a habit, and I figured that was enough time to get over her. My mom wouldn't let me go abroad alone, but she eventually agreed to let me stay with my uncle in San Diego for a while. Since my college applications were done, I had nothing else to do. I packed a bag and booked a flight to San Diego that night. By 10 p.m., I was relaxing in my uncle's backyard and enjoying some grilled seafood. The sea breeze and the smell of the food made me feel much better. I posted a photo on Facebook and Sam and the guys immediately started commenting about how jealous they were. They all said they wanted to come visit me. My cousin woke me up the next morning saying I had a call. The sun was already bright outside. He teased me saying my childhood friend was on the line as he handed me the phone. I was still half asleep when I took the phone. It was Isabella and she sounded frantic. She said everyone was at the airport and they were boarding in 30 minutes. She demanded to know why I wasn't there and why I had blocked her again. She asked if my cousin was in town since my mom said I was with him. I took a breath and told her calmly that I was actually in San Diego staying at his place. Isabella got annoyed and told me to stop playing around. She said I was home yesterday and told me to catch a cab to the airport. I patiently told her again that I wasn't going and that they should just leave without me. There was a long silence on the other end and I heard a guy whisper to her that I really was in San Diego. He said he saw a screenshot of my Facebook post from last night. I realized Leo was the one who told her. I had blocked Isabella on Facebook so she couldn't see my posts. I asked her if she believed me now. She was so mad she couldn't even respond. Right before I hung up, she hissed that I would regret this. I already had a regret, but it was just that I hadn't come to San Diego sooner. Senior year had been exhausting, but the sun and the beach were exactly what I needed. My cousin was furious when I told him what happened with Isabella. He started trying to set me up with girls and took me to all the best spots in the city. The weather in San Diego was perfect and it wasn't too crowded with tourists. We went diving, fishing, and even tried bungee jumping. We were so busy every day that I fell asleep the second my head hit the pillow. I didn't have any time to think about Isabella. Isabella and her friends seemed to be having fun in Savannah. The group chat was full of their travel photos every day. At first, I tried to avoid looking at them. One day, my cousin was too tired to go out, so I stayed in and scrolled through my phone. I accidentally opened the group album and saw all their photos. They had taken group shots at every major landmark in Savannah. In almost every photo, Isabella and Leo were standing right next to each other. They were always the center of attention in his posts. I looked at my own photos of the mountains and the ocean where I was all alone. I saw the beautiful lakes and mountains, places I had always wanted to visit with her. It felt bitter to see her experiencing those things with someone else. The future we had planned was now hers and Leo's. I realized that nobody is truly irreplaceable. My cousin woke up and saw me looking down. He rolled his eyes and told me to stop worrying about a few stupid photos. He said anyone could post on Facebook. He told me he was an expert at social media and that I just needed a makeover. He promised that if I put some effort into my appearance, I would be a hit in college. He said I'd forget all about Isabella once I met new girls. From then on, he was on a mission. He took me everywhere to take cool photos and made me post on Facebook constantly. I ditched my baggy clothes for the trendy beach gear he picked out for me. He made me get contact lenses and took me to the gym every day. He insisted that a new look and a better style were essential for starting college. He was very serious about my transformation. The transformation was incredible. I barely recognized myself in the mirror. I looked like one of those stylish guys I used to admire from a distance. My mom was so shocked by my Facebook photos that she almost cried. She kept saying how much I had grown up. My Facebook was blowing up with comments from classmates who couldn't believe how much I had changed. Someone shared my photo in the class group chat and everyone started showering me with compliments. I felt a bit embarrassed and joked that it was all thanks to filters. My message appeared right next to a comment from one of Leo's friends. He made a sarcastic comment about my editing skills and asked for a tutorial. The chat went silent for a moment. Sam got annoyed and posted the unedited live photos I had sent him earlier to prove they were real. The group chat went crazy after that. Even our advisor joined in to compliment me. Everyone was shocked that I'd been hiding such good looks all this time. They called me a natural heartthrob. People said I didn't even need filters and that I just needed to dress better. They joked that I'd been too busy studying to show off my looks. After that, nobody dared to make fun of me anymore. One of Leo's friends tried to claim that live photos could be fake, too, but everyone else shut him down immediately. Isabella and Leo didn't say a word in the chat. Leo stopped posting travel photos after that. Soon, my mom called to tell me my acceptance letter from the university in Seattle had arrived. I got into the aerospace program I had always wanted. I was so happy I cried for a long time. All my hard work had finally paid off. But then my mom told me my grandmother was in the hospital and that I needed to come home right away. I rushed to the Houston airport the next day and ran right into Isabella and her friends. They were supposed to be gone for a month, so I was surprised to see them back 2 weeks early. Isabella looked shocked when she saw me. Even Leo was stunned. I tried to walk past them, but Isabella suddenly ran toward me. She asked if I was just getting back, too. She looked at me with a look of surprise. She couldn't hide it. She said she barely recognized me and that I looked really handsome. I just thanked her coldly. It was the first time we had been apart for more than a week. I realized that none of this mattered to me anymore. I didn't want to talk to her, so I just walked toward the exit where my mom was waiting. As my mom took my bag, I heard Isabella's voice behind me again. She had followed us. She said hello to my mom and then asked me about my acceptance letter. She said her parents made her come back early to have a graduation party. She reminded me that our families had planned to have a joint party. She said her parents had already booked the venue. She looked embarrassed when I didn't respond. My mom stepped in and told her that I wasn't going to have a party. She explained that she was busy with work and that my grandmother was in the hospital. She said we would just have a small family dinner later. My mom was polite but firm. She knew we were fighting and that Isabella had changed her plans, but she didn't know all the drama. My mom was clearly annoyed with Isabella for being so reckless with her future. Isabella looked awkward and asked about my grandmother, though it didn't sound sincere. My mom gave a vague answer and turned down Isabella's offer for a ride. We left the airport and went straight to the hospital. The doctor said my grandmother needed surgery at a larger hospital in Dallas. We arranged to transfer quickly. I offered to go to Dallas with my aunt to help take care of my grandmother. My mom had been working so hard since my dad died 8 years ago and I wanted to help her out. I wanted to do my part during the summer. I flew to Dallas with my grandmother that afternoon. Obviously, I missed Isabella's big graduation party. I wouldn't have gone even if I were in town. Isabella was furious that night and kept calling me from different numbers. She started by yelling about where I was, then realized I wasn't coming at all. She was livid. Even her mom noticed something was wrong and called me. She asked if we were fighting and why I hadn't visited since I got back from San Diego. She promised to talk to Isabella and told me not to be mad. She said she had bought me a new gaming setup and everything I needed for college in Miami. I told her I wasn't mad, but that I didn't need the gifts because my mom had already bought everything. I explained that I was out of town dealing with a family emergency. Isabella grabbed the phone and started screaming at me. She called me heartless for missing her big day and accused me of making up excuses. She reminded me that we had known each other for 18 years and asked if I had forgotten everything. I was exhausted from being at the hospital and was just trying to get back to my hotel. I wished her the best, but told her I really couldn't be there. She started screaming about how I was just playing games and asked how many times she had to apologize. She said I had ruined her whole trip and asked if I was going to ignore her until college started. She asked who was going to help me with my bags if she wasn't there. I told her she could think whatever she wanted. I knew the orientation leaders at my school in Seattle would help me with my bags. I didn't need her. I hung up on her, which probably shocked her. A few minutes later, I got a text from another number. She told me not to come begging her in college and said I would regret it when she started dating someone else. I just shook my head and deleted the text before blocking the number. I spent the rest of my time focusing on my grandmother. The school posted the final college placement list online. I was still in Dallas, so I didn't see it. Sam told me Isabella didn't go to see it either. Her dad had her interning at one of their branch offices out of town. She had also quit the class group chat right after a party. I figured she was finally done with me, which was fine. My grandmother's surgery went well and she was back home in Houston by the time I had to leave for college. I only stayed home for one night. My mom had everything packed for me. She drove me to school the next morning. I didn't see Isabella at all. College wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. As soon as I got out of the car, a group of friendly upperclassmen helped me with my bags and showed me to my dorm. The guys in my program were great. We were all in the same building and spent the first few days exploring the city and finding all the best places to eat. I was worried about the food in Seattle, but I actually loved it. We all bonded quickly during the first week and became a tight group. I was just getting used to the routine and starting orientation when I got my third love letter. Then Isabella called me again. She said she went to my house to find me so we could go to school together, but my mom told her I had already left. She was at her school in Miami and was confused because she couldn't find my department's registration desk. She asked which campus I was on. I didn't even know what to say. She still hadn't realized that I never changed my application to follow her to Miami. I told her it wasn't about the campus and that we weren't at the same school. She laughed and said I must be joking. She told me to stop being difficult and offered another apology. She told me to come down to the dorm entrance because she had brought all my favorite snacks. She joked that she would eat them all if I didn't show up. I had to stop her and tell her the truth. I told her I never changed my application and that I was in the aerospace program in Seattle. I reminded her that it was my dream and asked why I would give that up for her. My roommates yelled for me to come to dinner. Their Seattle accents finally made her realize I wasn't lying. Her voice started to shake. She kept saying I must be lying and that there was no way I wouldn't have followed her after finding out she changed her plans. She asked how I could leave her alone so far from home. I told her I was serious and asked why she was so sure I would just blindly follow her after she betrayed our promise. I told her that following her after she changed for another man would have made me a joke. She tried to argue that I said I knew about the change on the phone that night. She couldn't understand why I didn't change my plans, too. She asked if it was because of Leo. She claimed she only helped him because she felt sorry for him. She said he was afraid of being bullied and that he hadn't been back to Florida since he was a kid. She talked about his dad's legal troubles and said his grades weren't good enough for many schools. She said Miami was the best he could do and that I was much smarter than him. She kept making excuses for him, but I didn't care. It was all about Leo. Even now, she only cared about him and never once thought about how I felt. Leo's father was a corrupt politician who had been in prison for years. Even though his parents were divorced, people in their hometown still judged him and his mother. They moved to Houston to start over. I knew it wasn't his fault that his dad was a criminal, but his family's problems weren't my responsibility either. I didn't see why I had to sacrifice my future for him. I told her that since she cared about him so much, She should be happy they were at the same school. I said we were just old friends and that I wasn't obligated to be with her forever. I told her we should just move on. I hung up and took a breath. My roommates dragged me to the cafeteria before I could even think about it. I thought that would be the end of it and that she would leave me alone. We were thousands of miles apart now and there was too much drama between us. But the very next night, she showed up at my school, and she showed up at the worst possible moment. I wasn't alone. I was standing with a girl from my class, and it was a bit awkward. She was beautiful and very popular on campus. I was just about to ask her what she needed as I had noticed her stealing glances at me during dinner in the dining hall. I could tell she had something on her mind. "Davis," she said, looking a bit flustered. "I'm the one who sent you those 3 letters. I never heard back, but I wanted to tell you in person that I really like you. I'm serious about wanting to start a relationship with you. I truly am. Could you maybe give me a chance?" Before I could even process what she said, she shoved a 4th letter into my hand. Her face was bright red as she turned and bolted away like a startled deer. I was still standing there stunned by the confession when I turned around and saw Isabella. She looked exhausted from traveling, but her tailored white dress and light trench coat still made her look as elegant as ever. She stood there watching me with a strange expression. She was still as striking and radiant as she had been in high school. Judging by her professional outfit and the laptop bag, she had likely rushed here straight from an internship or a formal event. Even though I had moved on, seeing her show up in Seattle so unexpectedly made me freeze. "I need to talk to you. Can we find somewhere quiet to sit down?" Isabella asked, her voice sounding uncharacteristically hesitant. I told her I had a floor meeting later and that she should just say whatever she had to say right here. I kept my voice as neutral as possible. I knew she wouldn't leave until she got what she wanted since she had traveled all this way. However, I was shocked when she started by insulting Vivian, calling her shallow and desperate for confessing so soon. She warned me to stay away from girls like her, claiming they were nothing but trouble. I let out a cold laugh and asked if she really came all this way just to lecture me on my personal life. I told her that who I chose to date was none of her business. I asked her why she thought she could move on with new people while I was expected to stay miserable and alone. Isabella was stunned into silence for a moment before her tone softened. She admitted she didn't understand why I hadn't followed her and apologized for her behavior. She confessed that she had been arrogant enough to assume I would follow her anywhere without question. I cut her off and told her to stop trying to guilt-trip me with her assumptions. I reminded her that she was the one who broke our promise first. She argued that I had always followed her to every school we had ever attended since we were kids. She pointed out that I had her login info and demanded to know why I refused to change my plans this time. She grabbed my arm, desperate for an explanation. I asked her why she couldn't have been honest with me about her own plans instead of playing games with my future. I asked her if she thought messing with someone's career and future was some kind of game. I stared her down, demanding to know what she was thinking. She stammered that she never meant to hurt my future and that she was just overconfident in our relationship. She brought up the kiss from her birthday and said I didn't pull away. She claimed she was going to ask me to be her boyfriend once we got to college. She even said she had planned for us to get married in Houston after graduation. She insisted that Leo Sterling was just a tool to make me jealous and that she never actually liked him. Isabella was getting emotional and her eyes were starting to well up. I calmly removed her hand from my arm. I told her that she never once considered my feelings when she made those choices. I realized then that she didn't actually know me at all. I told her she had no idea why I chose Seattle University in the first place. She probably thought I was just following her like a lost puppy. But my dream of aerospace engineering was about my father who died in a flight testing accident years ago. I reminded her how I used to ask about the mysteries of the universe and why my father would risk everything for his research. I wanted to find those answers for myself. My passion for this field grew out of my love for him, not my attachment to her. I asked her if she really thought I would abandon my father's legacy just to be with her. Isabella was speechless and claimed I had never told her any of this. I just smiled because she never bothered to look past the surface of our friendship to see my true ambitions. Every hour I spent studying was for my own future, not for her. I decided it was time to be completely honest and end this once and for all. We needed to stop living in the past. I told her I appreciated her being there for me after my dad died. Her parents have been like a second family to me while my mom was busy with work. However, I made it clear that our relationship ended the moment she betrayed our promise. It started pouring rain right after I walked away from her. Later, my roommate came in all excited, saying a beautiful girl was standing outside our dorm in the rain. I just gave him a short nod and went back to my work. I didn't have anything left to say to her. I heard she stayed out there all night and didn't leave until sunrise. I assumed she went back to Miami, but she actually went back home to Houston instead. Her mother called me a few days later, sounding desperate. She asked me to talk to Isabella, who had come home with a high fever. She said Isabella was refusing to see a doctor or take any medication. Her fever had finally broken, but she was refusing to go back to school in Miami. She was even talking about dropping out and retaking her senior year just so she could apply to Seattle University again. She wanted to be with me that badly. I just felt a massive headache coming on. I told her mother firmly that I wouldn't wait for her. I had my own life and my own plans, and I wasn't going to waste my time on her drama anymore. I asked her mother to tell her to stop being so delusional because it was only making me lose respect for her. I heard a loud thud on the other end of the line before the call ended. Eventually, her grandparents stepped in and forced her to go back to school in Miami. I heard she was planning to go to grad school in Seattle just to be near me. Every break she would fly from Miami to Seattle just to catch a glimpse of me from a distance. It was like she couldn't let go. I ignored her completely, but she would still leave small gifts for me. By winter break of my freshman year, I had finally moved on. I was seeing someone else. Her name was Mia Hayes. She was known for being tough and independent, but with me, she was incredibly sweet. She had written me 99 letters, and her sincerity finally won me over. She had the most amazing smile. She used to tuck cute selfies into her letters, and my roommates never stopped teasing me about her. They were constantly trying to get us together. One day, Isabella saw me helping Mia down an ice slide at a winter festival. After that, she finally got the message and disappeared for good. I haven't heard a word about her since. My mom eventually moved out of our old neighborhood in Houston. Years passed and I ended up getting my PhD with Mia right by my side. We both landed jobs at a top-tier aerospace research facility after graduation. Looking back on all that high school drama now, it seems so insignificant. I have a long and exciting career ahead of me. The universe is waiting and I'm ready to explore it. The most important lesson I learned is that you never really lose anyone. You just find yourself. Never clip your own wings just to fit into someone else's story. Once you start chasing your own dreams, the past just feels like a light rain before a long flight. You are always meant to shine on your own path.